Hello everybody and welcome to this video tutorial how to model a bent plywood bench in Shapr3D for those who would like to learn more about furniture design. In this process video I will show you how I will set up the sketches, create a basic model and then add refinements to the design. Before we get started, let's set up our scene. Our units should be set to inches, and for our guides and snapping targets, everything should be turned on. I have put the reference model into your target folder so we can always quickly take a look at them. Let's hide them for the moment. Great, now we are ready to create our first sketch. As you see, I went to the front view and we can start with our first sketch. I will draw a side line, a horizontal line, and another side line. The degree between the side and the horizontal should be around 100. Same here. And you can see that everything rotated a little bit, not a big problem. This line should actually be around 20 inches, and when I select it again, it should be straight horizontal. It's on the right side. Let's select horizontal vertical. There we are. Very nice. The distance of this line and this point should be 18 inches. And the same also here. 18 inches. Very good. As a little tip, if, for example, you would like not to have a left and right dimension, we can remove those. Simply draw a line, make this line horizontally constrained, and then we say, hey, the distance between these two lines should be 18. Very good. So this line, if we want to call it this way, simply represents the ground. Good. To make our design a little bit cleaner, we can select this point and drag everything to this corner. Very nice. Okay, now we have our left and right sketch. We have our top line. Well, we have on the top left and the top right very sharp corners. We would like to round those. So we go to the arc command and draw an arc in. This arc should be 3 inches for the radius, and then I select the arc, select this line and go tangent and do the same here one more time. When I zoom out a little bit, you notice that actually the sketch moved up a little bit. So if you want to prevent this, we can do the following. I will select this point, move this to here, and then this point I will simply glue in place. So everything of the sketch can move, but this dot will not. Okay, so let's go back to this corner and draw our arc to there. Arc to the line, tangent, same here, and then the arc we would like to be 3 inches. Very good. You see this time actually just the arc adjusted and the sketch didn't move. Very nice. So the next step is actually important to understand. We have upper left and upper right corner, these sharp edges. So those I would like to remove. And we can do this with the trim command. So I select my sketch with the pencil, go to trim and simply tap onto these 4 edges. Then everything is gone. Nice. But when I go back and take a look at the sketch, I can see that a lot of elements are gone. So this is 3 inches, that is good, but the tangency constraint is gone. So I quickly will add the tangency constraints back into the sketch. I can also now select the 2 lines and add back the angle. Very nice. So here, if I type in 110, you see how this rotates. And this is now rotated because we did not reapply our horizontal constraint. There we are. You see, this works really flawless. So the constraints, think about it as geometrical restrictions or rules, how I want my sketch to update when I modify it. Good, so we are actually ready to create our offset surface. Offset sketch. So we go to the sketch, go to offset, then we select all the edges I need, and we will extrude this to, or offset this to 0.5 inches. Very good. Go to the line tool, because we want to fill in the ends here. By doing this, as you can see now, we closed the sketch and we have these profiles. These profiles we need, it needs to be a closed sketch. So we now with the pencil drag this arrow, we can actually extrude a shape out. We go 16 inches. Very nice. So little tip, how do we adjust actually the material thickness afterwards? So we could obviously do this while we're offsetting the sketch. So we could go to the sketch and then delete the outside and recreate it. Or we can simply also go to our 3D model. This is the process I prefer. I keep my sketches very simplistic and do a lot via direct modeling in Shapr. I can select this surface, and maybe I would like to see how this side looks with a 1/4 inch thickness, and the same here. So I'm removing a 1/4 inch. Let's go to the front, and there's an error. So if we zoom in, you can see that the fillet or the rounded edge is not really adjusting correctly. It's actually very easy to fix. So the inside is 3 inches, and when I select the outside, you see this is still 3.5. This actually should be 3.25 since we removed a 1/4 inch. There, you see now everything is updated. So you see it's actually really simple. I'm going to go back to the original dimension, because at this point now we can take a look at adding the handles on the side, the openings. Okay, so with the pencil we select one side, with the finger we double tap, then Shapr will go into this view perpendicular to the face, and we can start sketching. Ergonomically, for a hand opening, we might need just a rectangle that is 2 inches by 5 inches. Very good. I can make also these edges horizontal and vertical. Now to center this rectangle on my piece, I can either use the grid. The whole furniture piece was extruded 16 inches, so I can use the grid to position this correctly. Let me show you another step how we can do this when, let's say, the grid doesn't line up. You see that actually we have a magenta midpoint on this line, and there's a magenta midpoint too. By drawing from the rectangle to the edge of the face, you also notice that Shapr projected in the edge of that geometry. That's super helpful because that's the midpoint. In this line I can define as being horizontal and define as being 1 inch long. Very good. Great. Select the fill, and then with the pencil we extrude into it, and when we actually extrude through it, you will see it does a cut. You might have noticed that for this sketch I kept it as a square, and again I always try to keep my sketches very, very simple. That makes it simply easier to adjust them, and I only add details when needed. So the edge roundings in this case I will do via direct modeling. I will hide my sketches, then zoom in, select this edge and this edge, go to here and there, and then with the pencil move the arrow and simply round the edges. You see, this was actually very easy to do. We needed to create in the sketch first an arc and then offset it so we can find the other arc, so we can then later create a profile to extrude. But in this case we just had hard edges we could fillet. Very nice. So let's do the same on the other side one more time. With the pencil I select the face, with the finger double tap, go onto it, create myself a sketch 2 by 5, specify those as horizontal and vertical, go to the line command, draw myself this line, make this horizontal 1 inch, rotate my view, cut through, very good, hide my sketches, and then I can go ahead and round those edges. Very nice. Cool. Okay. To make the design a little bit nicer, we can also select those sharp edges down here and round those. Based on the direction you move your pencil, you see we switch between a fillet and a chamfer. And I will set those to a little bit bigger, kind of like 2 inches. Very nice. So the reason why I rounded those edges was also these corners on the ground could easily be damaged when sitting on it. Rounding it only exposes those flat surfaces to the ground, so not too much damage can happen there. Very good. Okay, so let's take a look at what we have. Maybe we would like to adjust the position of the handle. Maybe we would like to adjust the radius of the roundings here. We can select this rounding afterwards and still override it. So it's pretty cool. So this can be adjusted whenever you want, which is really nice. I can also select this fillet and then click on delete, and I get actually my original edge back. Pretty cool. Let's take a look at how we could reposition and resize actually this opening. There are 2 ways how to do this. We could go ahead and select all these edges and then hit delete. Then I would turn on the correct sketch and modify the sketch as needed. Could, for example, select this and then change the dimension. I could, however, also simply go to transform, go to move and rotate, select maybe this face. So this has actually 2 inches. I would like this to be easier for my fingers to go through, so let's add 1 inch. There we are, and you see the rounded edges will follow. Pretty cool. Can also make this a tick smaller. Maybe instead of 2 inches, how would this look like with 1 inch? So I have to move this down to 2 inches. There. So when I select these 2 edges now, this should be exactly 1 inch. Also here I can select those corners and change the fillet if I would like to make this bigger, or I would like to make it even smaller. So that's the power of direct modeling inside Shapr. Let me go back to all this. There we are. I can actually even move the whole opening too. Here's one thing we can go. We can either select the transform command, or I select the face and then select this face and then use the move command on my tool list on the left side, and then move the upper and the lower edge, and you see the rest will actually follow it. Let's see what happens when I select this edge and I go to move. See, then I'm actually just moving this face. This is not really what I want. So be aware of what you select and when you move it, how this will have an impact onto your design. Great. Now, for presentation purpose, let's add a plastic color on the outside and then a yellow color onto the sides. I will go to the top view so it's nicer to see. There we are. Go to Tools and Color. We can select a nice white and then double tap the whole object and you see everything is being made white. Very nice. And then I will select my orange color I have here. If you don't have this color, you can also with the finger move the color wheel and then that adjusts it. We have saturation, we have the brightness, and on the left side we even have transparency or opacity. I will go back to this predefined color and simply tap on every face. Nice thing is when I now move the color wheel, you see it updates it. But because I have so many tiny faces I need to select right now, honestly what's much easier is I select the side color, double tap my whole object so it's colored, and then I go with white, tap somewhere on the outside so no object or face is selected, and then simply here quickly select the easier to select surfaces. Click done. Yeah, and there we have our object. Really nice. Just as a little tip, even at this point when we would like to adjust angles or rotations, we can still select this face and go to the move and rotate, select maybe this edge, and then we can rotate it. You see that actually the fillet there will be updated, but if we take a look at the opening and the bottom, you see this does not really rotate the way how I would anticipate it. So in that case, we have to be a little bit smart and select all the important faces here. There. Go to rotate. Go to there. Very nice. And then hit the rotate command there. You see then everything actually updates much better and exactly the way how we anticipated. Cool. This, for example, this rotation is really useful if I now would like to understand, well, how far is actually this piece stackable. I can double tap everything, go to the move command, turn on copy, and then make myself a copy and move it up, and pay attention to at one point do they not intersect. There. So this tells me how easily actually this piece is stackable. Obviously I have a big gap there in between, and that's because the angle of the legs is rather It's nearly vertical. It's just instead of 90, which would be vertical, is 110. If we would increase the angle maybe to 111 or 120, then the distance between here and here would even be lower. That's, for example, then how you try to adjust the stability of a furniture piece versus the stackability of it. And that basically sums up everything how to model this piece. Let's take a look at how we can organize our scene. Here we have our first sketch. Let's call this front. Then this is our right opening. Call this opening right. So you see I actually first say what it is and then where it is. Very good. And we can call this single. And then all those we can select. With the finger now hold on to it. Then you see this pop-up. Select group. And we call this single stacked. Very nice. This really helps a lot. I'll show you now how we can create this variation where we have a magazine holder on the right side. Because we have everything nicely sorted, it's actually very easy to navigate our scene now. All I need to do is select those sketches which define the inside, select the copy command, and then make a copy and move it over to the right side. Tap somewhere else. As a note, when we make a copy of a sketch, it will remove all the constraints, so we have to put those back. But this goes pretty quick. Also here we can specify this 100, 100, very good. And this should be horizontal. This line will be adjusted at one point, so I will lock just this upper point. So maybe here this can move or so, but not really the rest. And you see by moving this point up, this radius here changes, so I will also put in the radius for the arcs. Very good. Now take a look at how we will continue from here. I will just draw a line. Now I would like this line to have the same orientation as this line. Well, I have two lines, 100 degree. Let's do the same on the right side. 100 degree. Very good. Cool. And how do we do now the rounding? Well, as we did before, we just draw in an arc. Very nice. Make the arc tangent. There, very good. Then we know we can trim this. After the trimming, we have to add the constraints one more time. Very good. Now we can specify this to be 2.5 inches. When we select the center point of the arc, you see a few things are changing. So the trimming actually removed some of our constraints. So let's add those back. Very good. Also here, 100 degrees. Nice. So, yeah, this actually is updating now more predictable. But how do we make sure that this arc sits nicely on the ground? It's actually very easy. So, we will draw a line from the ground somewhere onto the arc. This point I will lock. The line to the arc I will do tangent, and then the line, this is the trick, I make horizontal, and that pulls the whole piece down. To adjust this height, I can move the line up or down, or simply specify this to be 15 inches. Very nice. When I specify the arc to be bigger, you see how nicely this sketch updates. Pretty awesome. Okay. And from this point, as you know, as we did with the previous piece, then we just go to the offset select all the edges we only need, do our offset, go to the line command, fill in the missing pieces there, because now we can select the sketch profile and extrude it to the depth we need. And then the same process applies as we did with the other bench for cutting the opening into this face, how to round the edges, and then how to add the materials. So we will end up with this nice design. So thank you for watching, and I hope that this was very informative, how to use the sketch engine in Shapr and direct modeling to create a variation of bent plywood furniture modeled in Shapr3D.